Pallichattambi is a film that wants to be a fun, mass, entertaining crowd pleaser of a film, and at the same time also wants to be a political drama that intends to deliver what it considers to be relevant socio-political commentary. Unfortunately, it can do neither and crumbles under the weight of its own lofty ambitions. The film has a rather stacked cast, some engaging mass action sequences. It also has some interesting and unexpected story twists as well, but most of all, it might be one of the most beautiful Malayalam films I have ever seen. That being said, the film is brimming to the top with overt leftist messaging and tired political talking points, delivered via dialogue lacking any measure of subtlety, so much so that it almost seems like a parody version of a Malayalam left-leaning political drama movie. It's over the top, preachy, and borderline patronizing in its messaging, especially for what is basically a summer blockbuster of all things, and no amount of cool action sequences or stark visuals can undo the fact that the film treats you, the audience member, as someone who needs to be politically re-educated rather than someone to be entertained. This is the Indian Movie Critic. I put out videos on Indian cinema I find interesting. Subscribe to see more. Let's begin, and as always, no spoilers. Pallichattambi, set in the 1950s in the idyllic backdrop of the village of Kaniyar, tells the tale of our lead, played by Tovino's character, who has to work with the locals of Kaniyar to defend their land and way of life from the rising tide of communism. Or so it seems. See, this is a film from Kerala. We all know how it is going to go down regardless. You know what? Let's get right into it. Look, I'm in no way shaming anyone for enjoying this film. We all should be free to enjoy whatever films we like, especially those which agree with our worldview. But what I won't stand for is when the same people who mock and ridicule films like Dhurandhar for being propaganda films turn around and without a hint of irony praise and compliment films such as Pallichattambi. In fact, weirdly enough, this film has much more in common with Dhurandhar than any Malayalam film when I think about it. But we'll get to that in a bit. So, speaking of propaganda, is this a propaganda film? Unfortunately, in recent times, thanks to foreign influence, the P word has been intentionally mischaracterized to mean anything that the liberal mindset disagrees with. But let us be more rational and let's go by the definition of what constitutes actual propaganda. Information, typically biased, used to promote a particular cause, doctrine, or point of view. So, a certain bias to express a certain idea. So, the first question that must be asked is about the bias, obviously. Are all the good guys or the victims belonging to one ideological group and the villains or the bad guys belonging to another? Yes, it's your typical liberal and leftist common people versus fascist and capitalist landlords type of movie, but weirdly enough, it feels a bit unintentionally racist as well, as all the villains are all Kannada speaking. But you know what, let's move on past that. Second question is about the actual idea that they're trying to push using their bias. So the question is this: will there be anything left in the film if you take away all of its political talking points? Well, not really. So yeah, it is a bit of a propaganda film, I guess. See, I had my hopes up when the film initially started with the struggle of the locals against the communists. I mean, rarely does Mollywood ever speak against the left, so I was intrigued to say the least. Obviously, within some time, the locals are revealed as backward and too traditional and set in their ways, with some even being corrupt and lackeys to the landlords, and the communists, despite their initial bad first impression, are just shown to be getting by. And Tovino's character, the Chattambi, in the middle of all this, being forced to pick sides. He starts off by fighting off the communists, later even training up the local militia to combat them on their own terms as well, but then slowly has his mind changed thanks to the leading lady Rebecca, a real communist who reveals to him whatever negative impressions of the communists he had were based on bad examples, and this is not real communism. I mean, wow. Just wow. Where have we not heard that before? It gets worse. It's not just the fact that the film is relentlessly peppered with leftist political talking points, it's the fact that it's the most cliche, amateurish and patronizing version of them, to the point that even a leftist watching the film would feel like they're being talked down to. It is genuinely the least subtle and the most obvious political propaganda I have seen in a very long time. Obviously, there is a scene in this film where Rebecca tells our Chattambi that we don't need any churches or party offices, what we actually need are schools. Obviously, there is a scene where Chattambi tells the Luddite locals that women are to be allowed in this militia and so should be the people of lower castes. And obviously there is a scene at the end of the film in the final fight where women with sticks beat up trained riot police officers who are like 2 times their size. And obviously there is the final fight scene which involves a speech where Chattambi gathers everyone from the village and tells them that despite our different backgrounds, we are all the same guys, let's fight our oppressors. And bringing it back to the Dhurandhar comparison, remember how in Dhurandhar 2 Hamza could not take out his target, still Modi was in power and everyone collectively mocked the film for this act of political bias? Yeah, well, in this film our villains can't enact their super evil plan because our communist chief minister at the time, EMS Namboodiripad, or at least a stand-in for him, bravely held his political line against their devious schemes. The film even ends with a teaser for the sequel, very reminiscent of Dhurandhar as well. And you remember how there was almost an MCU-ish Ajmal Kasab reference in Dhurandhar 1? Yeah, well, here we literally have a scene where a vital piece of information that could save the village is being passed on by a young kid to the village elder, and the elder thanks him for saving them. And just as the kid is about to leave, he asks him for his name. The camera zooms in on his face, the music swells, and the kid tells, "My name is Chandi." I mean, once again, just wow, the lack of subtlety here. It's almost intentional, I would say. For the non-careless listening, he's one of our ex-chief ministers. You know what, the rest of the political stuff I'll just leave for you to watch. I'm pretty sure we'll be just bordering on spoilers at that point. And leaving the politics aside, the mass entertainment side of the film doesn't exactly deliver as well. There is almost close to nothing in this film that other South Indian films haven't done in a bigger and better fashion. Sure, there are some pretty well shot and well edited action sequences, especially one match cut fistfight sequence across two different events in the opening of the film. And midway through the film we have a jeep chase with the bicycle of all things that has some really cool camera work as well. And the final fight sequence, which is rather stylized and enhanced by CG, and while it's not the most convincing CG, it does look unique regardless. But the issue here is by this time you have already been soured by the cliche political takes of the film, and no amount of cool mass scenes can wipe that taste away from your mouth. It's like one of those tail-end MCU films. You came for a fun time, but the constant barrage of political drivel will leave you numb to the spectacle. Politics and spectacle aside, there isn't much to the film really. The story outside the politics is as cliche as you can get. Save the village from the invading force by banding everyone together. Wow, what a unique concept. Tovino's character, the Chattambi, is a pretty fun character though, and Rebecca, as much as I despite the character for being the equivalent of a performative liberal woman on social media, I do appreciate her arc in the film, which is probably the most unexpected and surprising aspect of the storytelling. All that being said, I do have some actual genuine positives for the film. Like I mentioned, the film looks glorious, especially thanks to the immaculate color grading that really sets the mood for the entire film. The cinematography is also done really well with some epic landscape shots and some very well choreographed camera moves here and there. As for the editing, of course the film could have been much shorter if we cut off all the propaganda bits, but we can't really do that now, can we? As for the performances, Tovino is always putting on a great show, so are the villains and the side characters as well. There is a borderline cameo for the villain which I won't spoil, but that's done pretty well as well. As for the lead actress, she can act, but the horrible dubbing is a major letdown. It's almost like the voice doesn't belong to the person, if you get what I mean. So to bring it all together, is this a good film? Not really. As I mentioned, the mass side of the film doesn't exactly work. Neither does the political drama aspect of it, at least to me, without which there is nothing to this film. If you agree with the politics of the film, or you are not someone who is tired of its politics at least, and if you are okay with shelling out money for a serviceable mass flick which is occasionally fun, then yeah, go to the theaters. For everyone else, let's just wait for the OTT at the very least. So that's it then. Until next time, this is the Indian Movie Critic. Bye.